Today, we put the G in global and look around the world.
Then summer is canceled. Ugh.
And retail therapy. It's a real thing.
I'm Alexa Scordato, and this is Future Forward.
I am Steven Rosenbaum. Let us launch. Hey, Alexa.
Hey, Steve.
So, we've tried for the last couple of weeks to not do COVID shows, but I think we've come up with a point of view that's unique and interesting, and I also think our loyal audience has asked for our take on this complicated story. So we're gonna jump in. Say again.
There are a lot of ways to slice and dice it. So
there are, and I think I want to take kind of a holistic view of what I think isn't being talked about. So let's just start right at the top with the global story. So this is a chart from the Financial Times. It's actually a couple of days old, week and a half old. So, but to be fair, all the trends remain the trends. So I made sure that if we were going to show this chart, that it wasn't like, oh no, that's wrong. It's all gotten better than that. And it's really interesting. First of all, we can pretend in the U.S. that we're solving this our way with our technology and our strategy, but the reality is the world's dealing with it kind of almost I mean, there's some staging about when things happen and how they move around, but the seeing all of the countries with this up and to the right chart was sobering and I think relevant.
I've seen a few charts now, and I mean, I think what makes me sad is how you look at China, you look at Italy, and you look at South Korea, and just like the time, right? There was time that I think we had before we started to peak, and I wish we had learned some things or moved a little faster.
Yeah, we wasted a month. That being said, if you look at France, Italy, the UK, and Spain, I mean, yes, Italy has flattened the curve, which is one of those euphemisms for, the same number of people are dying every day, but not more.
Right.
I don't know how that became a media phrase. That being said, let's talk about South Korea, let's talk about China, and then let's talk about Australia, because they're interesting for different reasons. So China did this, very totalitarian thing and came in with the government and dragged people out of their houses, and everybody was in, in hazmat suits, and they all had those handheld temperature devices, and that may have been. They may have, quote, flattened the curve, but I don't think that, democratically elected countries are going to do that.
Right. Yeah, and there's also now controversy saying that they even underreported their numbers, right?
I mean, I'm willing to set that off to the side because I think everyone's finding the numbers in different ways, and that being said, though. The Australia story is the one that I found maybe the most interesting. And let me see if I can let me see if I can find it. So Australia started early, did all the things that you knew that they should have done. I'm trying to look for that article here. We'll get to all of them right here. So this is a Business Insider story. It says, thanks to early lockdown efforts, experts say it's probably too late for other countries to learn from Australia. But Australia took it seriously, responded quickly, did a lockdown. Everybody followed the rules. Everybody participated, and they've had, reasonably good results.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what no one's saying out loud is the reason you want to slow this thing is not because we're all going to live in our houses forever, but because scientists are scrambling to come up with, either some kind of a medication, either a treatment or a cure, or a way to know whether or not people are in fact immune. And all of those things are happening in parallel. And so the trick is to just not overwhelm the medical system until we have some new systems in place.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And just, skipping around a little bit, you see countries just across the pond from Australia, you have New Zealand, and they're going an isolationist route. They're doing like strict border controls, and they're willing to acknowledge that their travel and tourism industry, which is worth $41 billion to them, is basically just going to come to a halt until there's a vaccine. And their prime minister, president, has basically just said, like, not only are we going to flatten the curve, like, we're going to eliminate this.
And yet, somehow Bernie Sanders is looming in front of me at the moment. As long as the people that are the most vulnerable, the people that are undocumented, the people that are, working in substandard working conditions, the people that don't have, personal protective gear, or are working sick because they can't, they can't afford not to, are going to be the people most vulnerable and most likely to be transmitter. So, I understand. I guess I don't fully understand borders as being a solution when the disease doesn't respect borders.
Oh yeah, but I guess in an island nation like New Zealand, for example, they can basically say no one's leaving and no one's coming and no one's going. And when you think about the spikes that have been seen then again in like South Korea or Singapore, it's actually like migrant workers or like imported from foreign travelers. And so I don't know, I feel like the countries who quote have a leg up, right, they either have like totalitarian like states, like no democracy, or they're island nations where they can actually just rope off, they can kind of quarantine. Like
I guess Canada and the U.S. have closed their borders to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to be solved.
You still have trade.
What?
There's still trade. Like truckers are going back and forth. Like it's just regular citizens that can't do it. But I think countries like New Zealand are basically saying like we will be self-sustaining. I think, or if New Zealand and Australia cooperate, then both of those countries can have what they're calling a trans-Tasman bubble, which would basically just be like it could enable travel and trade between those two countries.
So there was an interesting article about Emirates Airline beginning to conduct rapid COVID testing before passengers board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mom was telling me about this. So she was like, if we're ever gonna travel together, like we have to travel on one of these airlines because at least they're guaranteeing that everyone who is on that plane doesn't have it.
Yeah.
You look expensive.
No, it made me think it was going to be a bargain airplane ticket. If you want to get a test, the best way to get one is probably to do a round trip ticket to Saudi Arabia and get a test as part of the package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, my cousin's in Dubai, and she was like, "Yeah, you should just come here if you want a test. They're like more readily available than other parts of the world."
So let's step back. We spent, a couple of hours reading all around the world. Was there anything that you took away from, like other than, let's make it a gimme that the U.S. had a head running start on this thing. We knew about it in January. We did nothing till March, and history will write that, tens of thousands, if not more, people died as a result. That's just criminal. But we'll save that argument for another day. I think the thing to me, I've been thinking a lot about 9/11 relative to COVID and how really different they are. And I actually wrote something which I haven't published yet about, the thing about 9/11 was in the days after 9/11, you walked down the street and you could just look somebody in the eye and you knew like there was a bad guy, but it wasn't any of those people walking down the street. Like the bad guy was some amorphous, you know, you know, extremist, pick whatever version of the story the U.S. government told you on any given day, but it wasn't our neighbors.
Right. There was a sense of unity and patriotic spirit and community, gathering, belonging. Like that spirit was alive and well. And here I feel like there's so much fear, right? And not only can we not walk down the street without, questioning if someone is walking too close behind us, but it's forcing us to isolate ourselves hyper locally and also globally, right? Like I remember during 9/11 feeling like the rest of the world was feeling it too. They were hurting when they saw the footage of the towers going down. And now I feel like there's so much skepticism and fear and they're just the discourse around the different headlines and like who's doing it right, who's doing it better. I mean, we're making all of these comparative statements and there's such a lack of unity given all of the unknowns. Like it's just unprecedented.
So I had two reactions. I did go out of the house once this week. We ordered something from Petco and they now will bring it to the door. So you can walk with distancing on the street, get to Petco, and then stand there 6 feet apart, and they will come out. And if it's paid for by a credit card online, they will come and hand it to you, like curbside pickup. And so as I was walking there, I had two reactions. One was I never thought of people's mouths as being as expressive as they are. But when you can't see someone's face from the nose down, you really don't know whether they're smiling at you and saying, hey, I'm in it with you, or whether or not they're frowning or saying, keep away from me, you're sick. Like there's a big missing piece of data there. And then the other thing was, as I walked down the street, I probably passed a total of maybe 5 people who walked 10 blocks. And 3 of them were wearing no mask at all. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to know what that message was. Was it, I can't afford a mask? Was it, I wasn't able to find one? Or was it, fuck you in this mask bullshit. I don't believe in any of the doctors. I think it's all garbage. And, I looked in their eyes to try and discern what the no mask message was, and I couldn't unravel it.
I think it's tough to read into. There was definitely a shift for me just personally in the last couple of weeks as you start to know people who have COVID or people who've lost folks. And so I hope more people are taking it seriously. But what I feel most scared of is that, looking at all of the international headlines and the different countries' approaches, it's all a reflection of sort of their cultural values. And when we think about us as Americans, us as New Yorkers, right, it's like no one's going to tell us what to do. We're going to go where we want. We're going to do whatever we want. And I think this is really testing us. And I think that, you can already see protesters, right? Like there's already a discourse around reopening, which is
okay. So I have to tell you, I've read a lot on that. So a couple of things. As long as stores are closed, there's nowhere to go, right? There's no restaurant to go to. There's no store to go to. So you can protest. I mean, these car protests are nonsense to me because you're sitting in your car with the windows rolled up, quite protesting. You want to be able to reopen America. Get the hell out of your car. If you're so sure that there isn't a disease and you're not afraid of it, then go stand next to your neighbors and you guys can all make each other sick because that's bullshit. So I don't buy the car. And the other thing is there's a whole bunch of money behind those Liberate America protests that come from the Tea Party folks.
Yeah. No.
It's the same.
That's why I think we're all screwed. Like, I don't know if we're going to get ahead of this for a really long time because we're not going to get the guidance top down and we're not going to accept and follow the rules bottom up.
Yeah.
Us,
So
like,
I have a
like,
bunch I have a bunch of optimistic scenarios about that, but I'm not going to share them today because I don't want to jinx them. But but let's go forward a little bit. We'll save the Liberate America conversation for another day, um, for a variety of reasons. Um, let's move to the summer cancellations because um, they hit both of us for different reasons pretty hard.
mm-hmm.
Um, so, for me, I live in New York. There's music all around me. There's Summer Stage. There's live Lincoln Center out of doors. There's a bunch of jazz clubs we really like, both down in the Village and uptown. But summers for us have really become incredibly musical. You know,
Yeah. No, and it's
10,
Upper
12.
West Siders. When I got my Shakespeare in the Park email this week saying there's no season, it made me really, really sad. I mean, these are traditions. These are things that you look forward to. These are defining cultural moments, right, for us as New Yorkers. And there's a
So,
for sure.
so I've never been to Shakespeare in the Park.
Really?
I don't know how, I've never been able to figure out how to get tickets
Oh,
other than get up in the middle of the night and stand in line.
oh, so in the last few years, they've actually been doing lotteries, and so as long as like I've actually just had a lot of success setting a calendar invite every day to enter, and then I usually get it at least once.
Really? All right. That's good to know. Um, but not this
Can't
summer.
use that for tip
So,
this summer, Steve.
yeah. So I think a couple of things. Here's a little bit of advice. Um, I think we all acknowledge this summer is screwed, and whether or not you can go out to the park, you can walk outside, and however they balance people's cabin fever with, safety. Um, we're going to have to find some different ways to connect. Um, so I stumbled into Elvis Costello's bandmate, Steve Naive, is this fabulous piano player, and they've been together for, I don't know, 30 years. And um, he's got a country home somewhere, maybe in the Hamptons, I think. And he and his wife and his son live there. And he does a daily hour to 2 hour just live improvisation on Zoom.
Cool.
And it's very rough around the edges, which makes it kind of better. And the tech is kind of wonky, but he just plays and they talk, and I like it's quite intimate and very nice.
I mean, you're seeing that too on Instagram Live, like a lot of living room concerts. Questlove just did an entire DJ set featuring Prince that Anil Dash live blogged for 5 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
That's very funny. So I think so here's the closest thing I can come to optimism, which is some of the weird blurry lines between digital events and physical events and live events in person and concerts and venues and things that are intimate but digital are going to be reinvented in this.
Absolutely.
I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure how if you said to me tomorrow, we found a cure, we've got medicine, it's going to be at the CVS in 3 days, you go get a shot and you're all good. Maybe it would all go back to normal, maybe, but I'm not sure.
Everything's getting shuffled. I mean, in some cases, I feel closer than ever to family and friends because people are making a concerted effort to connect. And, a good example last week on Easter Sunday, I normally would be with my family. Andrea Bocelli, the opera singer, he did a concert from the Milan Cathedral, and my grandmother loves him. And so we actually, my parents did a contactless delivery of a smartphone to her house in Queens. She Windexed it. and then I actually live streamed the broadcast on my TV, and I pointed my phone up to her so that she could see it stream on her end. And that's just the kind of thing that like wouldn't ever happen unless we were doing this. So like I'd like to believe that there's a silver lining, like people are, I don't know, getting their priorities straight, but there's still a loneliness. Like physical gatherings, physical touch is like a love language for some people. Like there's pain, right? And I think people who suffer from anxiety and people who have mental illnesses and are depressed, like this is a tough time.
Yeah. And, I think about this too. I mean, if you're not with somebody, if you don't either have a family or a significant other, if you're literally in your apartment alone, I think it's much harder.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
and for relationships, it's a test, right? I mean, you know, um, you know, people are trying to kind of reorient how they interact, and some of that's going to be some learning, and some of that's not. But
Oh,
all right, so let's move to the last chapter, which I guess I didn't know was true, and I'm not sure I even know what to make of it. But let's talk about this shopping therapy thing.
so I've been following just the market, and I thought this headline caught my eye, which is like that Shopify's stock um, is doing really really well right now, and it's because their CTO basically said that Shopify is seeing almost like Black Friday activity, like traffic and sales every single day. And I guess that makes sense because there are thousands of businesses that are now forced to do things online. There are liquor stores, like wine stores here in Brooklyn, um, where even walking in the area, like I see people at the store and I can't enter the store. There's a sign that says, "Go to our website and order online."
Um, so I guess I can't tell. I mean, yes, we've bought a couple things online, and when they've come, it's been, kind of a little bit of yay, but we've also, I think, purposefully dialed back what we've been ordering just because we'd feel like let's not burden the delivery guys and the companies with like silly deliveries of stuff that we don't need. Like, I'm not buying, we're not, I don't know about you, but like, I mean, I guess my question is, what's the traffic? Is it people getting canned goods and gloves and masks, or is it people shoe shopping?
I think it's just all of it. And so, again, here's an example. I love this brand of candles. They're called Patty Wax candles, and I normally get them from this store in Dumbo, and it's like one of those like gift stores, right? Like little knickknacks, notebooks, etc. And I would normally go there to get candles. Instead, I'm going straight to the source, and they're based in Nashville. I literally just found this out last night. And if I want to burn candles and my favorite brand, like I'm just gonna go online and get it.
Yeah, no, I think local retail. I mean, on the Upper West Side, the number of empty storefronts was already troubling.
Hmm.
Um, and I do think that local, the thing people forget about local stores is like a family owned store doesn't, it's not like you shut it down and then in 6 weeks you start it back up. I mean, if you shut it down, you shut it down.
Right.
Um, and I think that I think for New York, the rebounding of local retail, which was already challenged, is going to be a long road. And I wonder about whether or not New York retail and real estate, which has always been kind of resilient, whether this is, maybe this is the thing that makes people go, you know what? I don't want to live in that close proximity to people. It's too dangerous.
Yeah. It's interesting. Even forget forget retail. Another use case for Shopify is digital commerce, meaning like digital content. So yoga studios now are moving into like SaaS subscription models where they're they're pumping out recorded classes, and for X dollars a month you're getting like a premium library. I mean, we're always talking about the streaming wars, right? And so it's interesting to see a new category emerge of content online from an entire class of creators who never ever would have turned to the medium as a way of making money.
Yeah, no, that's right. Um, but I also think so. For example, I've gone kind of full circle. I thought that Quibi might be at the right place at the right time, and now I don't.
I've just like ad blitzed by them, and I'm not even like clicking on anything.
I downloaded and signed up for the 90-day free trial, and I spent one morning trying to watch a little bit, but the categorization's a little blurry, and the news stuff is mixed in with the drama, and I don't know. I just was like, nah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't need. Thank you very much. I'm good.
So you're not
All
buying
right.
anything online, like I mean, you got a puppy besides that.
We've bought some puppy supplies, but that's about it. And then food delivery, but that's really it.
Yeah. I go back and forth. I want to support local businesses. I want to support the local wine stores, the restaurants. And so, I mean, we are stocking up on groceries, but we are trying to kind of order takeout occasionally. And I mean, I think that's why I pulled the article in the New York Times, because it basically talks about how to be more conscientious buyers online, and how to be an ethical shopper. And so one thing I would encourage listeners to do is, like, if you are going to order from a local restaurant, call the restaurant directly, because every single time you use a service like Uber Eats or Seamless, that's less money in the business's pocket. It's like 30%.
Is it? It's 30%?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money. So, yeah. And so there are just like little things that you can do. And again, instead of turning to Amazon for everything, like I probably could have found those candles on Amazon, but I didn't even look. It's like I'm trying to go straight to the supplier, straight to the brand, and then support them that way.
All right, so three other tips, just as we wrap things up. We are watching Unorthodox, which is fabulous, and I had no idea.
Fascinating. It's a whole world, but right here in Brooklyn.
Yeah, Williamsburg. And other than that, I don't know. We are, as they say, hunkered down.
What I am in the middle of is watching all of the extended versions of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because they're like 4 hours long, and they provide these epic landscapes. It's like New Zealand, so you're kind of like transported into another world, and it's not the kind of movie that I would ever have the time to watch.
All right, I'll consider that. All right, we are out of time. I hope that was some mix of helpful and modestly therapeutic. We should trade. I keep wanting to do like a film club, like a watch together Netflix club, but I can never figure out what all my friends would want to watch at the same time.
Oh, I mean, we could start with Unorthodox. I know a bunch of people watching it.
I'm almost through. It's only 4 episodes.
Yeah.
What's the thing that just came out? Bosch just has a new season. Afterlife has a new season. Those both are this week. The other thing is, sometimes it depends where your head is at. You turn it on, you think I'm going to watch this, and then you're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like.
Maybe we should just do an entertainment episode next week.
All right, we'll do that. We'll collect our favorite views, but we can't give anything away, right?
Yeah. We should be like, views and reads. Also, if you're reading.
All right. Yeah, and listens and music. All right, we are out of time. See you next week.